Hello, this is Brian Tracy, and welcome to the Goals Teleseminar. In the next few minutes that we spend together, I'm going to share with you some of the most important and powerful ideas that I've ever learned in an entire lifetime of studying successful people. All over the world today, I meet people who've gone from rags to riches, who've gone from poverty and frustration to affluence and success. And every single one of these people tells me over and over again, sometimes with their eyes shining, that it was the miracle of goal setting that changed their lives. And that's what we're going to aim at doing today. Some years ago, a group of very successful businessmen got together in Chicago, and one of them told me what happened some years later. They were sitting around talking, and they'd all started off with very little. Most of them had started off with nothing. They'd come from poor families, blue-collar families. They'd made a lot of mistakes and failures in their lives, and today they were all wealthy. And they were sitting around after a beautiful dinner in a lovely restaurant, and they were saying, why is it that we, of so many people, could have become so successful? And they went around and said, well, maybe it's because we live in America, and maybe it's because we were more determined, and maybe because we worked harder or we had the breaks. And then one of them said something which stopped the conversation, and which I never forgot. He said, gentlemen, he said, success is goals, and all else is commentary. Success is goals, and all else is commentary. And suddenly they all realized it. It was their ability to set goals, to write them down, to make plans for their accomplishment, to work on them over and over again, to make new plans when the old ones failed, to keep picking themselves up and moving toward their goal that enabled every one of them to be successful. And that's what will happen for you. When I started off, as many of you know, I didn't graduate from high school. I started off in the half of the class that made the top half possible. I bombed out of high school, and the only job I could get was washing dishes in the back of a small hotel. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing cars in a car lot. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing floors with a janitorial service. I actually thought that washing was in my future. And by the way, the word lost when you're young is a euphemism for non-voluntary career or redeployment, which is when you get an opportunity to explore new careers unexpectedly. So I got fired lots of times. And I went from job to job. Sometimes I was out of money. I got thrown out of my house when I was 18, didn't go back for a decade. I lived in my car in the wintertime. I slept next to it in the summertime. My car was what you called a junker. And so I always had a bunch of tools in the back so I could fix it up. And sometimes I'd have to lay under my car next to the side of the road and replace universal joints. And one day I had to replace a clutch, and I had to repair brakes. And sometimes I had to do valve jobs and so on to get my car going. Much of the time it didn't go. And I went from job to job. I worked on farms and ranches. I worked in construction labor, carrying heavy things. I worked in factories, putting nuts on bolts. I worked as a seaman on a Norwegian freighter in the North Atlantic. When I was 23 years old, I was an itinerant farm laborer. I was working on a farm during the harvest, sleeping on the hay in the farmer's barn, eating with the farmer's family, and working from dawn till dusk to get the harvest in before the first crop. I was uneducated, I was unskilled, and at the end of the harvest, I was once more unemployed. Now, sometimes when I'm on television or radio, and I've done more than 4,000 interviews, people ask me, what was the turning point? What was the great moment for you? What changed your life? And what used to frustrate me, because I know that I had done so many things. I've read thousands of books and tens of thousands of articles, and I've worked for years, sometimes 12, 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, 2 or 3, 4 years at a time, until I was so tired that my face was black from exhaustion. And it was never one thing. And one day, in frustration, I started to think, is there really something that turns your life around? And then I realized that there were 3 turning points with me. It's almost like you're going to turn a U-turn. You turn right, and then turn right again, and you're going off in a different direction. Number 1 is when I decided to accept responsibility for my life. At the age of 20, I had this incredible epiphany. I was working in a factory, I was broke, I had no money, it was cold outside, and suddenly I realized that everything that was ever going to happen to me for the rest of my life was going to be up to me. Is that no one was coming to the rescue, that no one was going to do it for me. Nobody cared but me. And up to that time, well, I'd blame my parents, and I'd blame my boss, and I'd blame the economy, and I'd blame my education, I'd blame my mistakes. And then I realized that it doesn't matter where you're coming from. All that really matters is where you're going. And that everything that ever happened to me from then on had nothing to do with the past. It had only to do with the future. And that was the turning point. That was when I put my hands on the steering wheel of my own life and made the first turn. Now, about 3 or 4 years later, when I was in my mid-20s, I tripped over, stumbled upon goals. and I read something that said, decide what you want, write it down, make a plan, work on it every day. Well, that was pretty simple, so I grabbed a piece of paper. I was living sharing a cheap room in a rooming house. I grabbed a piece of paper, I wrote down 5 or 6 goals I wanted to accomplish, and I promptly lost the piece of paper. Within 1 month, my whole life had changed. Within 1 month, my income had exploded. I had moved up in my field. I had been promoted to manager of 22 salespeople. I moved out of a boarding house into an apartment. It was the most amazing thing, and it was exactly what I had written down. It's almost like touching a hot electrical wire. When you start to write down goals, you'll be literally astonished at the things that happen to you. So that was the second part. The third turning point in my life, and this is the one that never stops, is I found that you can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal that you can set for yourself. Is that in order to achieve something you've never achieved before, you must master a skill you've never had before. You must learn and do something you've never done before. You must become someone you've never been before. And so at that point, I dedicated myself to lifelong learning. I accepted that I was responsible. No blaming, no excuses, no complaining, no criticizing. I decided exactly what I wanted, and then I said, now what do I have to learn to get it? So the starting point of success, and we'll start off, we'll call this number 1, is to decide exactly what you want in life. Exactly what you want. And the way you do this is you idealize. And idealizing is the hallmark of the superior person. Idealizing is sort of like fantasizing or dreaming at the beginning. But what you do is, instead of saying, well, I don't have any money and I'm set back with this and I have these problems, what you do is you imagine that you have no limitations. You imagine you have no limitations and that you have all the time and all the money and all the friends and all the contacts, and you have all the connections and all the education and all the experience that you could do, be, have anything you want in life. If you could wave a magic wand and have anything you want in life, what would it be? There are 4 main areas of life where you wave this magic wand, and you idealize, you dream, you imagine, you project into the future, and you dream of what your future could be like if it was perfect. And the first area has to do with your income. All successful people I know have a clear plan every single year for how much money they're going to earn that year. And they break it down to how much they're going to earn each month, and sometimes how much each week and each day. And then what they do is they say, exactly what activities will I have to engage in each day to earn my money on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. And then every single morning they get up and they start working on the most important thing they can do to achieve that financial goal. And a week, a month, a year later, they look up and they've hit or they've exceeded their goal, and people say, boy, you were sure lucky last year. It wasn't luck at all. If I were to give you a brand new car, beautifully running, give you the keys, give you a map, give you a clear destination, even give you a GPS system in the car, and I say, go straight there and get the prize, and you got in the car, followed the GPS system, went straight there and got the prize, nobody would say it was luck. All you did was follow your plan. So the rule is, idealize and imagine what it is that you want. Imagine how much you want to earn this year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years, and so on. And ask yourself, what will you have to be absolutely excellent at doing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in order to earn the kind of money that you want to earn? Look around you and ask, who else is earning the kind of money that I'm earning, and what are they doing differently from me? And remember this, nobody's better than you, nobody's smarter than you. If they're earning more money than you, then they've just figured out how to do it before you have. They've just asked the questions, and usually they've asked them of other people or read books or gone to courses or listened to audios. They've learned what they needed to learn to achieve the goals. And whatever they or whatever hundreds and thousands of other people have done, you can do as well. Nobody's better than you, nobody's smarter than you. The second area where you set goals has to do with your family. And it's really important to think, if you could wave a magic wand and your family life was perfect, your house, your home, your car, your travel, your lifestyle, the schools your kids went to, the lifestyle you had, the vacations you took, the clothes they drove, the things that you want to do for your family and with your family, ask yourself, if you had no limitations at all, what would they be? If you had no limitations at all, what would they be? One of the most important goals we have in life is to spend more time with the people that we care about the most. And what we have to do is build our lives around that. I had a man in my seminar who came up to me and said, you know, when I got married, he said, I promised my wife I'd spend 2 hours every single day with her, at least. And if I was away, I'd make it up to her. If I was gone, I'd be on the phone. He said, when we had our first children, I promised her I'd spend 3 hours every single day with my family. He said, that was 21 years ago. He said, I've never missed a day. He said, you know what? It was the best decision I ever made in my life. I am making more money today than I ever dreamed I would make. I am successful, I'm happy, I'm highly respected amongst all the people that know me, and I have a most wonderful family life. He said, that decision to spend that time with my family and then to organize my life and my work and everything around it changed my life. Best decision I ever made. Something to think about. The third area where you decide exactly what you want has to do with your health. Now, your goal today is to live to be 90 or 95 years old. The fact is that with our medical system today, with what you know about health, nutrition, exercise, and so on, with fantastic breakthroughs in medicine and surgery, you're going to live to be 90 or 95 years old. And the time to start thinking about it is now. So ask yourself, if my health was perfect, what would it look like? Physically, how much would I weigh? How fit would I be? How healthy would I be? Think about the foods that you'll have to eat to be healthy. Think about the exercise programs you'll have to engage in. Think about the things you'll have to start doing or stop doing in order to be perfectly healthy, and have that as your vision for your future. Now, the fourth area where you must decide exactly what you want has to do with your net worth. And as you know, you are responsible for your financial life. The government's not going to help you. There's no pension plan. There's no money in the Social Security system. And your job is to accumulate enough money so that you never have to work again. It's not that you won't work, but that you'll have the choice of working or not working. You'll have enough money so that you can retire comfortably for the rest of your life. And my goal is 20 years. I say 20 years because most financial planners will tell you that you're probably going to live to be 85 or 90. You will retire at 65 or 70. Make sure that you have enough money that your money outlives you. So what you do is you say, all right, how much would it cost for me to support my lifestyle today if I had no income at all? Would it cost $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month? Whatever the number is, say, if I were to stop working today for the rest of my life and I could continue to live my lifestyle, pay for my home, travel, food, car, things like that, how much would I need? And it's a really important question because many people aren't aware of how much that is. Now, of course, imagine that your children are married and gone and are self-supporting. Imagine that you've paid off your house. Imagine a few little things, put a few variables into the equation. But let's say it would take $5,000 a month for you to support your current lifestyle. Well, then you multiply that by 12 months, which means that you'll need $60,000 a year. And just for the purpose of this exercise, don't even think about your money growing while you're in retirement. Imagine it just keeps pace with inflation, all right? That's a very conservative, but it's a very safe way of thinking. Well, let's say you're going to live 20 years times $60,000. That's $1.2 million that you'll require. Well, then you sit down and you say, all right, how much am I worth today? How much am I worth today? And you do an analysis. And the way you do an analysis is imagine that you were being transferred to another country for 10 years and you had to sell everything you had and turn it into cash to leave the country. That way you get a very good idea of how much your furniture and clothes and cars and lawnmowers are worth, because they're worth probably about 10 to 20 cents on the dollar. Many people think, oh, I got lots of money because I have all this furniture and stuff like that. No, if you tried to sell it at a garage sale and you got 10 to 20 cents on the dollar, you could consider yourself lucky. Look at your bank account, look at the value of your insurance policies, look at your stock markets, look at the pensions, look at any amount of cash you could get a hold of and ask yourself, how much do you have today? How much are you worth today? And don't worry, because most people are underwater as this goes. Most people have, as they say, more month at the end of the money. And then say, this is the amount that I would have if it's $1.2 million. Then you draw a line and say, okay, it takes an average person about 20 years to go from zero to $1 million. Now that seems like a long time, but remember, the time is going to pass anyway. People say, oh, I got to get richer and get richer. Don't believe that. Average person who's really, really smart makes about 8 to 10% per year on their accumulated capital. And this is based on studies of tens of thousands and millions of self-made millionaires. They make about 8 to 10% per year on their accumulated capital over the long term. So what you say is, okay, this is how much I'm worth. This is how much I want to be worth in 20 years. Say $1 million too. Say, how much am I going to have to earn and save every single year between now and 20 years from now? And then you make a plan. At the end of this year, I'll have to have this much. At the end of this year, I'll have to have this much. And you can do this with calculators. And now you have a clear target. This is where you want to end up in 20 years. This is where you want to be in 15 years, 10 years, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 9 months, 6 months, 3 months. And then what you do is every single month you focus on financial independence. And I'll tell you what, in interviewing tens of thousands of self-made millionaires, the one thing they all had in common was they began thinking about achieving financial independence very early in life. And as a result, they accomplished extraordinary things. So here's an exercise that you can do, fun exercise. It's called the quick list method, and you can do this today. You can do this at the end of this exercise. If you're listening to this CD, you can stop the CD and do it. And what you do is you say, what are my 3 most important goals in life right now? What are my 3 most important goals in life right now? And quickly write down your answer in 30 seconds or less. You can give this exercise to your spouse or to your children, because we find if you only have 30 seconds to answer this question, your answers will be as accurate as if you had 30 minutes or 3 hours. If you want to be even more specific, say, what are my 3 most important income and career goals? What are my 3 most important family goals? What are my 3 most important health goals? What are my 3 most important financial or net worth goals? And write them down. And that gives you a quick snapshot of what your true goals really are. Many people are quite amazed at the answers they come up to with this. I had a woman come up to me in tears at one of my seminars, and she was saying, well, I don't care about money. I care about people, and I care about life, and I care about love and happiness and everything. I don't really care about money. So I put her through a goal-setting exercise, of which this was part. And she came up at the break and she said, every single answer to every single question you asked, I kept writing money, money, money. She said, I've been fooling myself. And I finally realized it's only if I have enough money that I can do all those other things. Is that I need to become serious about my financial life. She said it changed her whole life. So once you have done the 3-goal method, now you have a pretty good idea. And now that you're clear about what you really want in all 4 areas, step number 2 is to write it down. We know that only 3% of adults have written goals. You write down your goals and you make them clear, specific, detailed, and measurable. Later on in this session, I'm going to give you a goal-setting exercise. At this moment, what I want you to think of is when you write a goal, imagine that you're placing an order with a factory on the other side of the country. And you write out your goal so it's so clear that an average person getting this order in the mail can prepare your goal and send it to you, and you can open the box and it's exactly what you ordered. If your goal is written out clearly and specifically, so you start off, first of all, you idealize, as I said before, and then you write it down and you crystallize it. For example, everybody wants to have a dream house. My wife and I used to talk about that when we lived in a little condominium. Then we rented a house, then we bought a house. We had to sell the house because we ran out of money. We had a rented house. And we always wanted to have a dream house. And I said, well, what would our dream house be? We say, well, you don't have a big living room and a place for the kids, a nice backyard. And, well, let's start writing it down. We began writing it down, and we wrote down 42 things we wanted in our dream house. Then we began to buy magazines every month with beautiful homes, Better Homes and Gardens, Homes Beautiful, Southern Homes, Architectural Digest. And we'd read these magazines and we'd talk about them, and we'd look at the pictures and we'd share what we'd like to have in our dream house. Well, things began to change for us very rapidly. My business got better and better. Soon I could afford to buy a beautiful home in a lovely neighborhood, but we knew this is a lovely home, but it's not our dream house. So we kept thinking. Within 3 years, we looked at 150 houses in a city far away, right the house that I'm in today. We walked into it, we looked around, and this was our dream house. This was every single thing that we'd written down on the list. And the more we explored the house, the more we realized how perfect it was. We've been here for 19 years. And you say, well, you know, it's not going to work for me. How do you know? How do you know? See, the question is not, what if it doesn't work? The question is, what if it does work? What if it does work? By the way, if you're single and you want to find the perfect person for you, sit down and write out a list of every single quality and ingredient that you'd like to have in your perfect person. Remember, the quality of your relationships, your family, your home, are often vastly more important than anything else. So write it down, write it down, write it down. And write out a description so that what you do is you set up a force field of energy in the universe that starts to attract the perfect person into your life. If you're running a business, by the way, and you need an employee, this is what I do, is I write down a clear description of the perfect person. One day I needed a person to head up marketing for part of my business, and I wrote down 38 things that I wanted in that person. And 2 weeks later, somebody called me out of the clear blue sky that I'd never met before in my life, and he said, I'd like to come to work for you. And he came in. I was going to give him about 30 minutes to talk to him, to be polite. Spent 3 hours talking to him. He came and worked for me for a year. And about after 3 months, I took out the list and showed him he had every single quality on the list. He was literally perfect. Plus, he had other special qualities I didn't even know about. Remarkable experience. Write it down. Be clear. Remember, if it's not written down, it's not a goal. Only 3% of adults have written goals, and everybody works for them.
The next is affirmations. Now, with affirmations, your potential is unlimited. Affirmations are the most powerful words that you can possibly say. Affirmations are based on what we call the 3 Ps. In that with affirmations, we reprogram ourselves unconsciously. Affirmations are strong, positive, assertive statements that you say about yourself, to yourself, and believe. And they're based on the 3 Ps. And the Ps are, first of all, personal. All affirmations, all statements that you say to yourself have to be couched in the personal tense, the I. If you say, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. When you say, I like myself, it accesses the subconscious directly. Every single command that begins with an I opens the subconscious mind and says, valuable information coming down. Prepare or get ready. And also positive. All affirmative statements must be couched in the positive tense, because the subconscious mind filters out negatives and only takes the words that the positive expression. For example, if you wanted to quit smoking, you wouldn't say, I don't smoke anymore. I don't smoke anymore. You would say, I am a non-smoker. I am a non-smoker. The words I am are 2 of the most powerful words in mental programming. When you say I am, because only you can say I am about you. In the whole world, nobody else can use those 2 words with regard to you. And your subconscious recognizes that when you say I am responsible, I am responsible, you can actually imagine the feeling that would accompany the words. When you say I like myself, you don't say I like myself. You say I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Imagine when you say I am responsible, you don't say I am responsible, you say I am responsible. I am responsible. In other words, emotionalize it, wrap it up with emotion, drive it into the subconscious mind like a detonator, and the effect that it will have on your personality and on your feelings will be tremendous. Now, again, with regard to affirmations, what I use is a series of index cards. And you can put your affirmations, your positive, present tense, personal statements on affirmations, and review those affirmations over and over again. Every time you review them, every time you think about them, every time you repeat them and drive them into the subconscious mind, every time you impress them, you increase the potential for them to be expressed externally. Now, one final thing is when you use affirmation, try to keep your daily words and actions consistent with your affirmations. And try to keep the things that you say when you're walking around and the things that you do consistent with the words that you say to yourself in private. All right, the next thing that we do is what is called verbalization. Verbalization is speaking aloud, speaking your affirmations aloud. Now, there's 2 ways that you can do this. Best to do it in private, but basically you increase the impact of an affirmation by as much as 80% and even more when you say it out loud. If you say to yourself, if you say, I like myself, or I feel terrific, or I feel wonderful, or I am responsible, I earn $50,000 a year. When I first learned about this process, my goal was to earn $50,000 a year, and I realized that the only way I could ever earn $50,000 a year was by repeating this over and over again. And surprisingly enough, when I began doing it, I was not making anywhere near $50,000, and I was very, very skeptical of whether or not it would work. I can only tell you from the bottom of my heart that it does work. So verbalize it. Another thing that you can do is in front of a mirror. If you verbalize in front of a mirror, you have 2 impacts working simultaneously. You have the impact of what you can see, plus what you are saying, plus if you emotionalize what you are saying, you have 3 access points to reprogramming the subconscious working simultaneously. So you stand in front of a mirror, you can say, in front of the mirror, you can say, I feel terrific, or I look great, or I look great, or you can say, you look great. Because when we talk to ourselves in front of a mirror, now you mustn't do this in a public washroom when there's other people around, because they may think you're a little bit strange, but nonetheless, verbalization is a very important part of driving this message into the subconscious. Remember, the key to this is whatever you can hold in your mind on a continuing basis, you can have. The only question is, can you repeat it long enough and hard enough, often enough, to impress it permanently in the subconscious mind? Once you impress it permanently in the subconscious mind, it takes on a power of its own that will eventually bring it into your reality at exactly the right time and in exactly the right way for you. And this, have you ever had the occasion where you are sitting comfortably relaxed, and somebody says, come on, let's go and do this, or let's get up and do that. You say, no, I'm comfortable. Remember, you're into your comfort zone. Comfort is a great killer of human potential. You say, no. They say, oh, come on, just get up and do a little bit. So you get up just a little bit, and you move just a little bit, and as you begin to move, you start to get into the swing of it, and pretty soon you get into it completely, and you totally forget about going back to the couch or the chair that you were in. Well, you can act your way into feeling. You can act your way into feeling almost anything. We call this, if you like, pretending. Pretend that you have the quality already. For instance, if you want to be courageous and unafraid, pretend that you're courageous and unafraid already. If you want to be confident, pretend that you have the confidence. There's an old saying that says, fake it until you make it. Fake it until you make it. Remember we talked about the gentleman who was told that he was the reincarnation of Napoleon, that all he had to do was he had to act like Napoleon and realize that on the court. And you know what will happen is that judges and people observing a person doing this find that you will hit more accurately, you hit with more force, you are better, you are more confident, you're more capable. Golfers. Another example is if you want to be a great golfer, is imagine that you are already a great golfer. If you want to be a great salesperson, imagine that you are already a great salesperson and walk, talk, carry, act as though you had the part already. Dress the part. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, do I look the part of a great golfer? Do I look the part of the executive, the salesman, or the saleswoman, or whatever it happens to be that I would like to be? These four, we call this the VAVA. V-A-V-A. V-A-V-A. Actually, I should do it this way. V-A-V-A. These are the keys to rapid personality change. The V is for visualization. Visualize and play the picture of the desired person you would like to be over and over again until it is accepted by the subconscious as a reality. Remember, the subconscious obeys your conscious command. If you command the subconscious, and you command the subconscious by the thoughts you hold in your conscious mind, by the thoughts that you dwell upon, the law of concentration. If you hold that thought in your mind on a continuing basis, eventually it clicks into the subconscious and it takes on a power of its own. The second is to affirm, and affirm over and over again. There are many people who say that they would rather go without breakfast than go without their affirmations each morning. Speak to yourself positively. Use positive self-talk all the time. Remember, you talk to yourself at the rate of almost 1,500 words a minute. Most people talk to themselves in terms of doubt and fear and worry and anxiety. Talk to yourself positive. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Just repeating, I can do it. I can do it over and over again. Boost your self-confidence and boost your self-esteem. When you have nothing else to do, say, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Because saying I like myself or I love myself expands your ability and your capacity in every area of your life. Also, verbalize. Speak out loud. Make sure the things that you say out loud are consistent with the person that you want to be and the things that you want to do. Verbalize and say, I like myself. Don't say aloud things that like, I'm never on time, I can't lose weight, I can't quit smoking, I wish I could, and so on. But always speak in positive terms. Remember that you can almost double the force of an affirmation by speaking it aloud. If you speak it really loud, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. You speak it really loud and really strong, it has double, triple, sometimes several times the impact. And finally, assume the role. Pretend as though you already had the part. Assume the role. Imagine you have been hired to play the role of an extremely successful person in a Broadway play. And in this role, what you are going to do is you're going to walk, talk, and act as though you were the success, as though you were the role model, as though you were the ideal image of the perfect person that you want to become. And if you walk it, talk it, pretend it, visualize it, think it, and affirm it over and over again, that is the person that you become.